Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we'll be doing an updated Tearlaments Fiendsmith list. Now, as far as the deck itself is concerned, this is probably still my favorite of the bunch, just because I feel like it's able to go into the current metagame as well as it possibly can, right? As the Tearlaments engine on its own does tend to struggle with a lot of the decks that are currently being played, but when you're able to combine it with cards like the Fiendsmith engine, you just get so many different avenues of play that it just becomes basically pretty easy to completely overwhelm your opponent, right? As the Fiendsmith engine itself offers you different avenues of play, such as the High King Caesar to be able to negate special summons, or the Pilgrim Reaper if you just want to mill 5 and try to get even more resources into your graveyard, as well as just general things like the Lacrima and the Fiendsmith in Paradise, offering you multiple avenues to be able to interact with your opponent during their turn. But point is, I feel like the two engines complement each other fairly well, and so with that, let's jump right into it. As always, we'll be starting off with the monster lineup first, and the first card we're going to be talking about is Tearlaments Reinoheart, which we are going to be playing at 3, because this is basically a pure tier deck that features an entire Fiendsmith engine, as opposed to a Fiendsmith deck that features a tier engine, right? And as a result, that means that we want to be able to see the engine as often as possible, so playing 3 seems like a no-brainer, right? As on normal or special summon, it's able to send any Tearlaments monster from your deck to the graveyard except a Reinoheart, so that means you're either going to be fusion summoning, or you're going to be sending Tier Cash to mill 2, and then when this one goes to the graveyard by card effect, you're able to reborn it by discarding any tier card in your hand, and typically you want to discard cards like Tearlaments Scheiren, which end up triggering in the graveyard and just allow you to basically amass even more advantage. So yeah, 3 Reinoheart seems like a no-brainer. Then to accompany that, we're going to be playing our 3 Tearlaments Kashtira, who on normal or special summon allows us to mill 3 cards from either our deck or the opponent's deck, but let's be real, it's pretty much just always going to be your deck that you're milling 3 cards for, as you want to mill as many cards as possible, right? And then when it goes to the graveyard, you're able to mill 2 more cards for a potential total of 5 cards milled, which, I mean, this is a deck that wants to mill as many cards as possible, so that's greatly appreciated. And then for the 1 of Tears, you have the 1 of Scheiren, the 1 of Havnis, and the 1 of Merrli, all of which are the ones that allow us to basically fusion summon and potentially mill 3 cards if you meet the condition, but the fusion summon is the important aspect because it just basically opens up the entire extra deck. That's it for the Tearlaments portion. We're basically just maxing out on everything available to us. And then for the Fiendsmith stuff, we're just playing 2 Fiendsmith engravers and the 1 Lacrima of the Crimson Tears. I cut Larry because I just always draw it, and honestly, I don't miss it. Now, as for what they do, you have your Fiendsmith engraver, who you just discard, and you're able to search your deck for any Tearlaments spell or trap. And then when it's in the graveyard, you can shuffle back any light fiend from your graveyard into your deck in order to special summon it. So this is basically the one that allows you to go into your instant rank 6 plays. And then as for Lacrima, when it's normal or special summoned, you're able to foolish any Fiendsmith card from your deck to the graveyard. So you can send like an engraver, but the more impactful card that we're going to be sending off of this is going to be Fiendsmith in Paradise, just so that we have that extra little bit of interaction during our opponent's turn. And then it can also like bring back a link monster from your graveyard by shuffling itself back into the deck from the graveyard during the opponent's turn, which is a great way of just being able to go like Lacrima effect, bring back Requiem, and then Requiem's effect is going to summon out the Lacrima that you shuffled back, and then instant setup for Paradise that way. But this is perfectly fine. I feel like I don't need anything else in order to take full advantage of the Fiendsmith stuff. And for other cards that we're going to be playing, 2 Beastking of the Swamp. You can get away with playing 1. You could even get away with playing none, but I wanted to be able to access cards like Fusion Grapha and Rukulos. Not that I'm playing the Rukulos, but for sure Fusion Grapha this time. And truth be told, with like the way that the deck is set up because of the Fiendsmith cards, it is going to be a little bit more on the difficult side to be able to consistently fusion summon, right? So you're constantly going to find yourself in positions where you only have like the 1 tier name in the graveyard and you have nothing to make with it. So by playing the double Beastking of the Swamp, we basically fix that issue momentarily by just giving us more chances to be able to take advantage of our cards more consistently. That's it for those. And then for the other monsters, we're playing 1 Performage Trick Clown, as it's a level 4 body that brings itself back for free and is basically just there to be able to allow us to go into the Fiendsmith engine, as we're going to be using this and any other level 4, go straight into the Excited Knight, which is a light fiend, and then go full fiends for the full Fiendsmith combo. There we go. And then lastly, we're going to be playing 2 shufflers, being the Keldo and the Mudora, just because a lot of decks do revolve around the graveyard, so having some kind of graveyard control is greatly appreciated, and it's also great at just helping us recycle our own resources as well. So with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion of the list. Now that we're on the spell and trap lineup of the deck, the first card we're going to be starting with is Primeval Planet Perlereino, which we are going to be playing at 3. As much like Reinoheart, this is basically the main play starter of the deck, right? as you activate it, and then you get to search your deck for any of your Tearlament monsters. So you just basically add whatever your hand happens to be missing, whether it's Reinoheart, Scheiren, Merrli, Tearlaments, Havnis, whatever. And then it just provides you with like a bunch of bonus effects as well, where all your Tearlament monsters and your fusions get boosted by 500 attack, because why not? And then whenever a tier monster gets shuffled back into the deck, and that's during your turn and your opponent's turn, you're able to pop a card on the field. So it allows you to extend by popping your tier cards like a set Soliak or a set Karma, for example. Or if you just want to clear your opponent's board and prevent them from amassing their resources, you can pop their cards instead. But yeah, this card, it's great, phenomenal, gotta play 3. And then to accompany our 3 planets, we're gonna be playing 3 Tearlaments Scream, as it's just like another phenomenal consistency card, as whenever you or your opponent decides to normal or special summon and you control a face-up Tearlament monster, you get to mill 3 cards. So that's 3 for your turn and then 3 for your opponent's turn. And then for the rest of the turn, after this effect resolves, your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack until the end of the turn. So it just makes it harder for them to go for game for whatever reason. And when this one happens to go to the graveyard, it's also able to search your deck for any tier trap. So yeah, this card, pretty good, not gonna lie. And then for the final 3 of spell in the deck, we're gonna be playing 3 super polymerizations. This is my favorite board breaker currently in the game, and I feel like it pretty much allows us to go into basically any matchup except for K9, but that deck doesn't really matter right now, let's be real. Even though it has one of YCS or 2, who cares, right? Like, it's not the most represented list. But this one, into everything else, Yummy, Mitsurugi, Dracotail, pretty much like evens the field and allows us to go into those matchups with as much hope as possible. And in order to accompany that, we're going to be playing 2 of these, being Forbidden Droplet, as while it's not taking away our opponent's monsters, it is going to allow us to be able to negate their monsters. And something that I didn't touch on with the super polys that applies to basically both of these cards is that they allow us to get rid of cards that we typically don't really want in our hand, right? So Trick Clown, Beastking, Shuffler, Karma, which we haven't gone into, you know, things of that nature we can get rid of through the use of Forbidden Droplet and super poly. So basically we're able to set up our own graveyard while basically stunting our opponents. So yeah, these 5 cards pretty solid, but that doesn't really end it right there, as we play 1 more card just to be able to help us break our opponent's board as consistently possible, and that is the 1 Triple Tactics Talent, which is good going first and second. But with these 6 cards, you basically are able to go into any matchup confident that you can at least try and pull out a game sometimes, right? But yeah, I really enjoy the ratios for that. That's it for those. And then for the 1 of to accompany our Triple Tactics Talent, we have the 1 Call by the Grave to negate monster effects in the graveyard, 1 Foolish Burial to send any monster to the graveyard, 1 Foolish Burial Goods to send any spell or trap to the graveyard, 1 Tearlaments Grief, which allows us to special summon a tier 1 monster from either our graveyard or our deck. The only thing is that we have to send something with the same type or attribute from our field to the graveyard. But even if you don't have anything on the field, you can still activate this card. You just have to send the monster that you summoned, which, I mean, you may think that's like a -1, kind of, right? But in actuality, it doesn't really matter, because if we're sending something like a Reinoheart or something to fusion summon, like a Merrli or a Scheiren, we can trigger their graveyard effects then to be able to come back or make a fusion summon and then just be able to get something a lot more valuable to our side of the field. So yeah, 1 Grief, perfectly fine. And then as for like its graveyard effect, it adds back our banished tier traps, but when it comes to Tearlaments Grief, you're only allowed 1 effect per turn. So if you decide to add back a tier trap, you don't get to special summon, and if you decide to special summon, you don't get a tier trap. So, you know, use it very wisely. Then for the other spells to just help round out the list, we're playing the 1 Fiendsmith Tract to be able to add any light fiend. But more importantly than that, we're playing the 1 Fiendsmith Sanct, which is basically just Hornet drones, but for the Fiendsmith engine. And I've been liking this card a lot more, especially because we don't play like the Fabled Lurry, right? And this one also means that we don't lose to cards like Droll and Lockbird immediately, as even if we hit by Droll, it's perfectly fine, because this one still allows us to go full Fiendsmith combo without having to do like a single search. So yeah, Sanct, pretty solid. Tract, it's all right. That's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we're playing our 2 Tearlaments Soliak able to negate our opponent's monster's effects, and when this one goes to the graveyard by card effect, is able to search our deck for any tier monster. 1 Tearlaments Meta Noise to be able to book a moon our opponent's monsters, and when this one goes to the graveyard, it's able to add back any Tearlaments monsters in our graveyard to our hand, which is great at being able to add back cards like our Reinoheart, Havnis, Tearlaments, whatever, right? Then we're playing 1 Karma, which when it's in the graveyard, we can banish it to be able to search our deck for any Tearlaments spell or trap, because they all happen to mention Visa Starfrost. And then lastly, we play the one Fiendsmith in Paradise to be able to have like another form of interaction and be able to take advantage of our Fiendsmith engine to the fullest. And with that, that's the spell and trap lineup, as well as the main deck should be 40 cards like always, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now that we're finally on the extra deck portion of the video, the first card we're going to be talking about are the Exceeds. So we're going to be playing one Evil Swarming Cytoknight, which while it does have a great effect whenever you're going second to be able to just blow up the board, we're basically just using this as a bridge to be able to go into full Fiendsmith combo whenever we have 2 level 4s. Then we're also playing one number 62 Garrus Timeless, which has 3 very solid effects, so we only care about the draw 2, discard 1, or the reborn from the graveyard. One DDD Wave High King Caesar to be basically double Solemn Warning on legs, and one Pilgrim Reaper, which allows us to mill 5 cards from both players' decks. So as far as like the Exceeds goes, it's a pretty solid lineup, I feel. Maybe you want to add like a Time Thief Redoer, a Typhon, maybe, but you can't go wrong with these 4. That's it for the Exceeds though. And then for the links, we're playing the one Fiendsmith Requiem, which just lets us go into full Fiendsmith combo, obviously. One Fiendsmith Sequence, which admittedly we don't really use all that much because we're typically not going to be fusion summoning 4 cards like Fiendsmith Desiree, but it does have additional uses too, right? Where because this is able to fusion summon for any fiend monster, you can, for example, go into Tearlaments Kaleidoheart if you have the necessary materials in the graveyard, or just go for the Desiree. But yeah, we basically never use this unless like we really have to. Then we play the one IP Masquerena, which is basically just there to allow us to go into the SP Little Knight during the opponent's turn. That's it for the links. And then for the fusions, we're playing the one Necroquip Princess, so that the Fiendsmith engine just basically turns into any rank 6 we want, whenever we want. One Fiendsmith Desiree, which admittedly, like I said earlier, we don't really summon this card. We're basically just using it for the Fiendsmith in Paradise fodder, where we banish the Paradise, send this to the graveyard, and then be able to disrupt the opponent's board. So but every once in a blue moon, especially after our opponents like hand trap themselves and basically -1 themselves with like 3-4 cards, we'll go into this, and then it's basically a wrap because they have no way to answer it, especially because it's typically untargetable since it has Sequence equipped. We play the one Mud Dragon of the Swamp, the one Guru Wings of Resonant Life, and the one Predaplant Dracostapelia, all of which are super polymerization targets, but we make them naturally throughout the deck anyways. We're playing the one Graph of Fusion just to be able to take advantage of our Beastking of the Swamps. I'm not playing Rukulos this time, but every now and then I'll just work it into the list, right? Especially if it's like a very much pure version of Tear. But Grapha is basically just a pseudo negate because it changes any normal spell, normal trap, or monster effect into your opponent discards the card instead. So yeah, just like another way that our opponent is going to have to try and fight through our board. And then lastly, we play the one Tearlaments Kaleidoheart, who on special summon or whenever an Aqua monster gets sent from deck to graveyard is able to target a card on the opponent's side of the field and shuffle it back into the deck. And when this card goes to the graveyard by card effect, it's able to reborn itself, thus triggering the first effect. But it's able to reborn itself and then foolish any card that happens to be a Tearlament from your deck to the graveyard. So yeah, just a phenomenal boss monster that makes the entire deck work, right? And with that, that's the Fiendsmith Tearlament deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!